Everyone.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another book talk for the Latinx and Kidlit book blog. I am Dora Guzman, and I am here with
I'm Sonia Alejandra Rodriguez, and I am also a contributor to the Latinx and Kidlit blog.
yes, and today we are talking about Octopus Stew by written and illustrated by Eric Velasquez, and it's also in Spanish. It's Pulpo Guisado. It is about a boy and his grandmother. I think his name is Ramsey.
Ramsey. Yeah.
Ramsey and his grandmother are hanging out, and the grandmother decides she wants to make her infamous octopus stew. And so it is the story of how they're getting all the ingredients and making this octopus stew, and then something happens, right? All of a sudden, it comes to life. And it's very action packed, hilarious. I don't know, what did you think, Sonia?
I love this book. It's fun, right? It's so fun, and like in the story, Ramsey is very much into like superheroes and drawing, right? It starts with he's wearing a cape at the very beginning of the story, and it follows thematically. It follows kind of like that action-packed like comic superhero like plot, right? Where Ramsey's gonna have to become the hero to save his grandmother from this giant octopus that takes her. Um, yeah, it's so fun.
I found myself laughing throughout this book just because I don't know. I feel like the interactions between Ramsey and his grandmother. So like when he wanted to wear the cape to the store, she's like, "You're not wearing this cape. What are you doing?"
What do you think?
And he's older, right? So I laughed because I like that's always a conversation that you see between like parents and children. Like, "You're not wearing this cape." But even at the store, like he's finding out, like he uses his phone, right, a lot to research, to know more about octopus and octopus stew. And um yeah, and I found myself laughing in a lot of scenarios, which again, it just shows how much action there was, right, in this story. It wasn't just like just one story, it had many like ups and downs too. um so yeah.
Yeah, it also just feels very like old people versus young people, um, right? Adults versus children, new generation versus old generation. Because, yeah, I mean, aside from like the comic book superhero like fandom that like Ramsey has, it is also very much like Ramsey uses his phone, his cell phone, his technology to look up things, look up a way to save grandma, look up more information about the octopus, and right, it's ultimately like what ends up saving the grandma. I mean, there's no acknowledgement of like the grandma being wrong, which is I feel also very common, but there's like, all right, I'll give it to you. You saved me. Okay.
Yeah, right, like my that's one of the parts that like really cracked me up was she is literally entangled in this octopus, and Ramsey is like, hold on, let me Google what eats octopus. And I'm like, what?
Which is
I mean,
also
that's
it feels very real though. Like for everything, I was like, hold on, let me Google it. Maybe there might be a YouTube video. Someone on Twitter posted something. I was like, hold on, let me Google it. And that's, I mean, that's a skill. That's
it
like access
is.
to information. Like you don't. I mean, we've talked about before. We don't know everything, and so like turn to the internet. There might be a solution for how to fight off this octopus that currently has my grandma.
Yeah, if this were this like if there was were in like a movie or like a short video, I feel like this would be like that dramatic pause in that action movie, right? Where everything is like slow motion, where he like quickly picks up his phone. Like I just envisioned that, and it was just so fun to read. Um there was one illustration that really highlights again how you said that it's filled with action and very much, an ode to superheroes, right? Ramsey's a superhero. One of my favorite parts of this book was just how there was these different panels, very similar to graphic novels, right? But again, oh no, let me reach my phone. Let me, it was very fast moving. Um, You could
Yeah.
definitely see here how Eric Velasquez again used his watercolors and just how he purposely put these illustrations in place to make it, the story keep moving.
Yeah. And it's also very much like a moment of agency and empowerment, right? Which I also think is very like it aligns very much with um like a hero's journey, like I forget what it's called, like the beginning of like a hero's story.
Yeah.
Um that is hit like he has to find a way to save his grandmother, right? There's a lot of agency, a lot of empowerment. And again, like I think things that we take for granted, right? That like children do, like always, or young people, like always on their phones, like right. And there's a line, even the grandma's like, "Didn't I tell you to put that away? Why are you on your phone?" Right? And but it's these young people have developed new skills, and they're leaving us in the dust, right? And that's how they're going to save us. I think along with that, those illustrations that you point out, it makes me kind of think of like just how emotive the characters are, right? Even the octopus, look at those side eye, right? The octopus already knows. All right, lady,
And
take me
he's just
home.
looking at the grandmother. He's like, I know you have some recipe that I am not surviving in this part.
And I've just been following. I think the dog's name is Chana. Like all of the representations of the little puppy, like the dog is so emotive. I was like, oh man, that's hilarious. Like yeah, all of them are just following like the little dog, right? And then when he goes to save, right? Once he started, so Ramsey figures out that the sharks are like what keeps are the predators or threat to octopus, and so he draws a shark. Then he wears his cape. Here's the hero, right? And then even the dog has a cape.
I didn't even notice that.
It's so fun.
Oh, I love that. The details in this story, yeah, this was the first time I read this book in both English and Spanish, and it was just very much not only filled with action, but like it made me laugh, right? But it also made me just think about how, Ramsey is stepping up to the plate. He's saving his grandmother, and throughout this whole time, they have this relationship where it's like, I'm gonna save you, and like you said, using what I know, right? Because he is from a different generation. But tell him about the secret
Oh yeah,
insert.
yeah. So spoiler alert.
That's here.
There's a secret insert in this book, and so if you read the book directly through, right, without looking at the foldout, it really just does feel like this like a superhero story, right, with like intro, climax, resolution of a hero coming into his own power, saving a loved one, right, nearly tied. They don't end up cooking the octopus ends up living with them. I don't know. They end up eating, like having salad,
Yeah,
and
I
that's
think
it,
they
right?
end
Like
up
it's
having salad, yeah.
but if you like open this insert, right, this moment of that climax, if you open the insert, right, there's like a different story, right? So that's his family, and it turns out that like Ramsey is telling his family the story of this day, right? And so then I feel like it gives you like this like different element of like all of a sudden, there's un cuento, like they're telling you un cuento, like, and we know like within our communities and our traditions, like, I mean, sometimes it gets a little exaggerated, right? And some details get changed from like person
A
to
little.
person, just a little. And so like to me, like when I opened that insert, I was like, oh, it's un cuento, right? That he's just telling, and he's trying to like spice it up for like everyone's looking at me, listening to me. Let's make it a little bit more innovative and fun and dramatic. And so I think I loved how Eric Velasquez did that, right? That like it so wholeheartedly captures what we do in our traditions and in our communities when we tell stories, how engaging that can be. It can be the most mundane event. Like, I mean, the octopus didn't have to come to life. It might have just expanded and it's like, oh man, the water spilled. But no, the octopus came to
Right,
life.
right. Or it
I
probably
saw
moved
it.
in like boiling water and something happened, but didn't know. And I love, I mean, basically, we're in Ramsey's story, right? Like, he's telling the story, and I feel like you said, it adds a different layer to it. Everyone's paying attention to Ramsey, and Eric Velasquez even included an author's note where that's where this inspiration came from, right? He would have, it was a tradition for him and his family to come around and share stories to one another. And again, it goes back to that piece of how stories are so valuable. But I also like how this is a child story, right? And he is able to add his own bits and pieces of creativity to something that probably wasn't that exciting. But at the same time, he remembers it so vividly. You know, and it's an experience with his grandmother, which I think another book that we talked about in the past about Eric Velasquez also had that relationship between, you know, him and his grandmother.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as well, about the theme, right, that you can see throughout Eric Velasquez's work. And it is very much like this like artist's coming of age, right, story. These coming into himself, right, as a person, but also coming to himself as an artist, right? Because right in other Eric Velasquez's book, maybe Grandma's Records or Grandma's Gifts, Eric Velasquez is also, or the characters, the protagonists in those books are also artists. They're trying to figure out how to be artists, be based on like his surroundings, based on what he learned from his grandmother, based on what he learned from his upbringing and his culture, right? His African and Puerto Rican like culture. And here you have the same thing, right? It opens with like Ramsey, he's drawing a picture of an octopus, right? And it's art that ends up saving the grandmother. And so I like that like inclusion, that intent, right? That it's art that is saving.
Yeah, yeah. And just his use of watercolor, again, we've talked about his artwork and just how he uses various colors and hues to represent, you know, various movement. Like you mentioned the facial expressions, right? The detail in those facial expressions. And, you know, you don't really have to read it to know what's going on. You don't have to read the words to know how characters are feeling or how they're changing all throughout. Yeah, it's just one of those books where I felt a lot of joy and laughter reading this book. But it is also very meaningful. Like, again, this is an experience of like octopus stew, right? This is a food that is important to their lives, right? And their culture. There's even a recipe in the back if you want to make it.
Take a
I don't think I'm that.
with that octopus
Yeah.
coming to life. Go for it.
If you want to, right? You know, and like you said, the ending was just, you know, at the end they just had a salad, which I could only infer like maybe it was just one of those things where he saw the octopus being made and he's like, I'm not trying this.
That's happened to me plenty of times with a lot of delicious meals or snacks.
Same.
Where I figured out what they actually are. And I'm like, oh,
Same.
Okay.
Same.
But it's
so he probably
delicious,
had that same. He probably had that same experience. But yeah, I love the use, and also an octopus too. And we talked about this a little bit before the video too. Like the English version has a mix of English and Spanish words. So again, and it flows very, very well, right? Just how anybody using Spanglish would talk. But in the Spanish version, there's only Spanish, which again, it could be, you know, its intent to just have the text in Spanish. But I always wonder why, you know, there's not the mix of both in both texts. Maybe it's something new, but I enjoyed the Spanish version just, you know, just the same.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see how like foreign languages get included, right? Foreign air quotes get included into picture books, like what gets italicized, what gets not italicized, what requires a context, right? Because even in the Spanish words in Octopus 2, the English version, the Spanish have English context cues, right? So that the reader can understand, if they're not Spanish speakers, so that the reader can understand what is being said. Yeah,
Right.
so I'm always curious about like those decisions, those conversations. Like you said in the Spanish, that it doesn't have um that it doesn't have a mix of English words with like Spanish context cues. It's always interesting, and I think that's just like a like representation of like what is happening with like our culture in the US. And the
Yeah.
more of us that get published, the more that like the industry changes and like certain like expectations of language change. Yes, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting. And I think it might have been the first time I noticed it, right? Especially having a side by side read. It was definitely the first time I noticed it. And I was like, huh, I wonder if I go back to other texts that have been published in both languages, if they do the same, right? Um, if they do the same thing in their Spanish version. So just something to keep a lookout for.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but
Well,
yeah,
thank you
I
so
love this story
much.
though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much for talking to me about Octopus Stew by Eric Velasquez. Everyone get it. All the links will be at the description of the videos. So it's in
Yes.
English and Spanish, right? Octopus Stew y ¿cómo se llama? Pulpo guisado.
Pulpo guisado.
Yeah, so thank you so much. Bye, everyone.